Good afternoon. My name is Wiktoria Włodarczyk, and I have been studying neurobiology here at Jagiellonian University for almost 4 years now. Have you ever wondered, what does your body do while you're asleep? I know it seems like a silly question, because obviously it just lays down in your bed. But how can you be so sure? After all, you're asleep and unconscious. As I was writing my bachelor thesis, I stumbled across a chapter in a book about parasomnias. The phenomenon of parasomnias is fascinating, mysterious, even a little bit concerning. Pretty common, to be honest with you, and still not talked about enough. And that's why it quickly became the main topic for this presentation. Firstly, allow me to explain what I'm actually talking about. Parasomnia is a very foreign-looking word, but believe me, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It has its origins in Greek and Latin, and it consists of 2 parts, which I'm going to dissect for you. Para means almost. Near, but not exactly there. Something similar, yet different. Or in other context, supposedly. Somnia means just simply sleep-related. Taking this together, we have a thing that is sleep-related, but it's not the thing that you think it is. It's not the thing that it's supposed to be. Confusing? Yeah, probably. But parasomnias are just a group of sleep disorders which are characterized by unwanted behavior during your sleep. So it looks like you're doing something consciously and willingly, but you're not, because you're asleep. So there is no intention in that action. And there is no even recollection of that action afterwards. You look awake, but your mind is still wandering in the land of dreams. But how exactly does it happen? And why does my brain decide to take my body on some sort of a night adventure and not inform me about it? Well, you need to know that sleep control and transitioning from one phase of sleep to another is a very complicated and complex process, which involves a lot of different areas of your brain, and it's still not fully understood. It does not work like a light switch that you can just flip on and off and everything immediately shuts down. There are actually 2 major problems with the statement that I've just said. Firstly, nothing really shuts down. During sleep, your brain is still activated, just on a different level. We can say that it slows down during non-REM phase of sleep and then speeds up again during REM phase of sleep. And those changes are happening in cycles. The activation is always present, but is always changing. Secondly, the changes aren't global nor immediate. They're gradual and progressive, which means that one part of your brain can be still in non-REM phase of sleep, while the other part of your brain can be already in REM phase of sleep. And that's normal and that's physiological, but only in that brief moment of transitioning. Because if some sort of pathological state dissociation happens, so when some features of one phase are present in another phase, that's when the parasomnia shows itself. Now let's move on to some examples. We can divide parasomnias into 3 major groups depending on the phase of sleep that they occur in. That's why we have non-REM sleep-related parasomnias, REM sleep-related parasomnias, and others, which cannot be simply categorized into those previous groups. Among non-REM sleep-related parasomnias, we can differentiate between sleep-related eating disorder and disorders of arousal. The latter are very interesting. They are characterized by sudden and partial awakening from deep sleep, which means that your eyes can be wide open, your muscle tonus can be intact so you can move your body, but your cognitive functions are still fitting with the state of sleep. That's why your actions may be lacking self-awareness and may be inappropriate. How inappropriate? That depends, because in that group, we can differentiate between several conditions. First of them is called confusional awakenings, and those are just simply awakenings with the sense of disorientation and confusion, which usually goes away after a few minutes, so it's not really extreme. But there is also a very extreme condition called sleep-related abnormal sexual behavior, or sexomania, and it is exactly what you think it is. The sexual behavior can be directed either towards the patient himself or their partner. And I don't know about you, but in my opinion, that is extreme and that is inappropriate, but fortunately also extremely rare. On the opposite part of prevalence spectrum, we have sleepwalking, which affects up to 17% of human population. It usually washes away during upbringing, and it's not really dangerous as long as the nearest environment of the person sleeping is kept safe. And the last condition in that group is called night terrors. And those are very unpleasant experiences happening mostly to children. Said child wakes up in the middle of the night, usually crying, with this overwhelming sensation of fear. There is sweating, deeper and quicker breathing, and also heart pounding involved. And the child cannot be easily comforted by their parents because the child just simply does not recognize them, due to lack of those cognitive functions being intact. Moving on to the second group, the group of REM sleep-related parasomnias. It is much smaller, and the best described condition here is called RBD. It affects mostly men between 40 and 70 years of age, and the major problem here is lack of muscle atonia, which should happen during REM phase of sleep. You shouldn't be able to move your body, but here you are. And that allows you to enact and mirror the content of your dreams. And at first, it seems just fantastic. You can be like a movie star in your own little movie, but it's not, because those dreams are often very violent. So there is screaming, swearing, punching, and kicking involved. And this particular disorder is often seen as an early symptom of neurodegeneration. So if it happens to you or somebody in your nearest environment, I would probably recommend seeing a doctor about that. And lastly, the last group, other parasomnias. It also consists of few conditions. The first of them is what I like to call all-in-one parasomnia, which is actually parasomnia overlap disorder. It is characterized by co-occurrence of symptoms of RBD and some sort of non-REM sleep-related parasomnias. Another condition is called sleep paralysis, and it is a literal wake nightmare without escape. Your brain is just projecting some sort of disturbing visions, and you are aware of them, and they feel very real to you, but you cannot walk away on those because your muscles are still paralyzed. Another condition is called exploding head syndrome, with the catchiest name of them all, but there is no real explosion involved. It's just a sensation of explosion upon waking up or falling asleep. It is often associated with loud noise, or flash of light, or even pain. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is called sleep talking, which is actually seen as a normal variant of sleep. Up to 60% of human population experiences sleep talking. Yes, you've heard me right. According to some studies, most of you here today have experienced or will experience an episode of sleep talking during your life, and you may never be aware of that. To conclude, among different and very well-known sleep disorders such as apnea or insomnia, we should also talk about so-called parasomnias, which remind us about the complexity of humans' brain functioning. Sleep is something so natural and so normal to us that we don't even think about it anymore. But it's still so mysterious, and there are still so many things yet to be discovered. You can think that you are always in control, but it's not always the case. I hope that I've managed to spark a little bit of interest in that topic in you. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a good night.